Welcome to Black Gumbo Southern Gardening. It's November. It's actually the week of Thanksgiving, and it's now time to start planning your spring garden. Come see what we're going to do. So I have my fall garden in, and I am growing lots and lots of stuff. Lots of really good stuff. I mean, I've got knee-high radishes over there. It's really awesome. But, you know, if you just kind of sit around and watch your garden grow, the spring can creep up on you and catch you by surprise, especially if you start your own seeds. And that's what we're going to do this coming spring. It's what I always try to do. Last year I wasn't able to do that. But I've ordered my seeds for the spring, and I've started planning out my garden. I'm going to do an expansion, and I'm going to change up some of my methods a little this year. So yeah, it looks like it's going to be an interesting spring with some new varieties for me. I really like tomatoes, and so I'm going to do a whole lot of tomatoes. And you know, you often bite off more than you can chew ordering your seeds. So yeah, let's talk about what we're going to do this coming year. So right here where I'm sitting, I'm going to extend my raised bed. I'm going to bring it out. Right here I'm going to bring it out 4 feet, and the one behind me I'm going to bring out another 2 feet. And that'll give me a little bit more space to put in more varieties. And all I'm going to do is just go get some new cinder blocks and move this row out, and I'm going to fill in here, and we'll have a nice shallow bed. You know, these beds have been worked for 5 years, and the soil down beneath the grade of my lawn here has actually been incorporated into the garden. And so it's kind of a, you know, it's not just a raised bed. The roots go deep down into the earth here. Right here though, it's going to take a couple of years for this soil to really get incorporated into the garden. So we're going to fill this with garden soil, and I'm not quite sure yet if I'm going to have enough of my own to put in here, but I'll show you when we do. We're gonna probably have to buy some soil from the dirt yard, and I don't really like their soil, but it's the most inexpensive route to go. I don't want to put bags of soil in here if I don't have to. I'm also going to put in 2 raised beds on either end of my one here on my patio and one at the end of my fig deck, and those raised beds will be for you know, kind of just another expansion. It'll be, I envision it having lots of flowers and pollinators in there, along with a couple of vegetable plants. But that's what I want to do this year, is add a lot of pollinators, a lot of companion planting. I mean, I know some people say companion planting is not really that effective, or it's kind of a mythological thing. However, having a diversity of plants in your garden is never a bad thing, and I intend to do that this year. Behind me I've got a bunch of radishes, and they're block planted. There's just nothing here but radishes. There's different varieties, but they're all radishes. And you know, that works for the radishes. They're a quick crop. They come up, you pull them up, and they're gone. It works for onions. I think I'm going to do my onions here where the radishes are. But when I get my tomatoes in the spring, and my peppers and my squash and all the varieties of the vegetables I want to grow, I'm going to mix them up this year throughout the garden, and see how that does compared to block planting. Normally, you know, when you think of gardening and you think of tomatoes, you've got, well, there's my tomato bed over there, and it's all tomatoes, and you put them in nice rows. Or that's my beans over there, my cucumbers, and you put them all in one place. And that's fine. It's worked for me for years. But, you know, I had spider mites this year, and when the spider mites got into my perpetual spinach this spring, they went through the whole perpetual spinach bed and wrecked the whole thing. I didn't have any more. I couldn't enjoy it. And they moved over to my squashes, and they moved over to my cucumbers. And since all of those were in one location, once they're gone, they're gone. But if I had some squashes, for example, spread throughout my garden, then it would be easier to control pests, and perhaps even harder for the pests to find the plants that they're targeting. They get a little confused if there's a squash plant among a bunch of tomato plants and a pepper plant, and next door there's an eggplant. Then it's a little more difficult for these insects to hone in on those smells, those pheromones, those hormones, whatever it is that the plant puts out for that particular pest. It's harder for them to find that, and I've read some studies about this and how intercropping actually confuses your insects. And so it's also better for your soil in the long run. It's more natural. You go into the woods and you find stuff growing up all together. And so this year, among my chief crop of spring, my spring crop is going to chiefly be tomatoes, because I love tomatoes. I'm kind of a tomato nerd, tomato snob. And I've got about 20 varieties I'm going to plant, and I'm going to plant 1 or 2 plants of each of those varieties throughout my garden. But in and among all those, I'll be planting squash, beans, and nasturtiums to be a ground cover, marigolds, different kinds of flowers, different kinds of herbs, all tucked within. And so that also makes it more fun as a gardener to go out and actually walk through your garden and explore what's going on. It's not like, okay, I have to walk down my row of tomatoes. You can go down your rows through my little paths between my beds now and explore different things. It's going to be fun. I'm going to enjoy it this year. So we'll see how it works. So in Zone 9A, what my target is to have my plants in the ground sometime in March. My last frost date average is sometime around the middle of March. And you really want to have your seedlings started 8 to 10 weeks before that, so that you can get them up, get them transplanted into smaller pots and get them hardened off and ready to go in the ground. So you got to start planning that in, December, now, November, purchasing your seeds. And so I've bought all my seeds. I'm gearing up for starting all my seeds, and it's going to be a good year. I'm looking forward to all the varieties we're going to grow. But that's what you need to do. Get you a little book or get you a planner or something. If you're not old like me, get you some software that will help you and remind you, hey, now's the time to buy seeds. Hey, now's the time to start your planting. I like a book. I like paper. The batteries don't die on my notebook, so I like to keep things going, keep my plans going in a notebook. But now's the time, because spring always catches people by surprise, because what happens is, especially a casual gardener, you'll go to Home Depot to pick up some light bulbs or something, you'll see all the plants out, and it's already May, and you think, oh, I'll start a garden. By May, you should have your garden pretty much, growing and in, at least in my area. If you want to garden all year, have a spring crop, a summer crop, and a fall/winter crop. You gotta be on top of things. So, yeah. Get you a planner. Here's some of the varieties I'm going to grow this year. I'm going to grow this Brimmer, Black Beauty, this lovely Terracotta. That's real interesting to me. I'll be growing Dad's Sunset, which is actually very much like the Amana Orange, my favorite, which is in here somewhere, but I don't think I'm going to grow Amana Orange this year. I've got too many. I'm going to grow this in its place. I've got a yellow Brandywine. I'm going to grow a lot of cherry tomatoes this year. I really like these big, where they just cascade down. I've got some from Tomato Fest, Gary Ibsen's Tomato Fest. I bought several varieties from him, black cherry, some dwarfs. There's the Amana Orange. I really like the varieties that I was able to get this year. I've got these dwarfs here. They gave me an extra, but these dwarfs here should be kind of fun to grow in containers. They are tree-like determinants, and that should be an interesting experiment. I've got this one here that is a traditional sun-drying tomato. I got my peppers, got a jalapeno, cayenne, Thai red chili, habanero, Tam habanero. That Tam stands for Texas A&M. It was developed locally, and it's a mild jalapeno, but it's still got some heat to it. And I really like this. It grows well for me, but I don't have any seed left. Yeah, so the habanero is actually a habanada. That means this has no heat. This is going to be interesting. And yeah, I like peppers, but I don't like high heat peppers. I can go with some spice. I like spicy food. I just don't like the full force. I've got some squash. I'm going to grow this stripy guy here and some summer squash. And I'm changing my cucumbers this year to the basic Boston pickling cucumber. That'll be fun. I'm going to grow some oriental greens, some tatsoi, and some bok choy, or this stuff here. What is that? Shanghai green choy. I'm going to grow some eggplants, some small eggplants, and I'm going to do some pumpkin pits again this year. Now I got these seeds from Dana Robertson over in Hawaii. She's got a Hawaii homestead over there. I'm going to link you to her channel. We got kind of talking about these Seminole pumpkins in a live stream that David the Good puts on. And David the Good is all into these Seminole pumpkins and growing these cucurbita machadas, which I tried this past spring. I was late. I tried actually in the summer, and they grew really well, but the vine borers got to them really quick. So I'm hoping that I can start these earlier and give them a better chance of avoiding the vine borers, and maybe they'll produce something before, before the borers get to them. Yeah, so it's 80 degrees on Monday. Thursday is Thanksgiving. So yeah, our fall is really kind of a sketchy fall. Although it's definitely fall, the leaves are falling down. I got my grandkids over here with my son helping me haul some leaves around to the backyard, and yeah, it's a good time to garden. If you live in Zone 9A like I do, then there's no reason why you can't garden through the winter. Let's go take a look at the garden and have a little bit of a tour. See, this is the, what is this? This is a Szechuan Red Beauty, and you can see that these are quite large radishes. I mean, that's a, let's pull this one out. That looks like it's about ready. Look at that. Now they do get longer than this, but that's about a good roasting size right there. Man, that's awesome. I like that. Now with radishes in any root crop, you can see if you plant them too close together, they don't really form the roots that you're looking for. So I'm going to pull these two out of here. I'm going to pull those two out, and that gives space to the plants around. You know, that's when you fail to come and thin like you say you're always going to thin. But you can thin as you go if you need to. All these radishes are starting to bulb up now. There's some in there that are probably too close. We've got a nice healthy plant here. And it's starting to form a bulb, but you've got this guy right next to it, so we're going to pull that one out. These are black radishes. There's a little preview of what they look like right there. About the right size for roasting. These get much larger than this actually, but I like them when they're small. I like these over here. These are some interesting ones. These guys right here. That's the color of them on the outside. You cut them open, they're a purplish red. Real neat. Let's pull these two out. They get much bigger than this, but that's a good roasting size right there. Pretty, huh? Chinese red meat. If you're not going to eat your thinnings, put them in the compost pile. A lot of good compost being made right here. These over here are red turnips, and you can see they're starting to bulb up a little bit. Starting to see some red down there. Looking forward to these. Now I do eat turnip greens. Look at all this lush greenery. Isn't that beautiful? This is just awesome. So I've pulled the cover back for a look and see what's going on under there. I'm liking what I'm seeing. Cover here. Got my cauliflower, and the cauliflower is doing well. I got some snail or slug damage in there. So I got the insect cover over it, so there's no moth damage yet. But yeah, pretty stuff, huh? Look at that water, I love that. Yeah, these are doing well. I wanted to show you something down here. This little weed right here. This is a beneficial weed. This is called chickweed. You've probably seen it. It's probably in your lawn. It's everywhere in North America. And that little weed right there is a very beneficial weed. Chickweed. They call it chickweed because people used to intentionally grow this stuff to feed their chickens. At least that's what I've read. But chickweed, you can see it has a shallow root. It's very good for your soil as a green manure. And it only grows in my area, at least. It usually grows right about now in the fall and the early spring. And it grows before anything else emerges when springtime comes around. And this stuff will grow in big giant mats and huge clumps all across the yard. And you know, it's tough to mow it down. But chickweed is good stuff. If you got chickweed in your yard, just let it grow. Or in your garden, just let it grow. Use it as a green mulch. This stuff will grow and cover this entire bed by the end of the season, and when I come back in here I'll just kind of mow it down and chop it down and leave it here. But it's all in this bed. It's everywhere in every bed I have. I don't like these guys, these weeds right here. That is nutsedge, and it is very difficult to get rid of. Yeah, the cabbages are doing really well under the cover. Got Brunswick and some purple cabbage and Gloria of some Dutch city that I can't pronounce. You can see on this end I've also got some of that chickweed growing. These guys over here are huge, about the size of a dinner plate. I mean, that one right there is enormous, doing so well compared to one that was not planted up, and it's just a little pipsqueak here. Well, thanks for joining us on Black Gumbo Southern Gardening today. There's a little bit of a look into the future and some planning ideas and a little bit of look around at what's going on here in the garden this middle of November. Thanks for joining us. Follow us on Instagram, on Facebook. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already. And we love to hear your comments. I try to at least read all your comments, and I respond to a lot of them. If you got questions, I'll generally respond to those. So yeah, leave a comment. We like to hear from you. We've actually learned a whole lot from the communication and the banter back and forth. So happy gardening. Get your springtime garden going, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.